What's up, y'all? I'm Enjoyment Outdoors, and this is my channel.
Welcome back, y'all. So today I'm actually going to be tackling the S1000 steering head bearing right here. This one's just worn out, so I'm going to jack up the bike, get it to where it's high enough so I can pull the forks out, and then pull the triple tree out and all that stuff. So it should be really fun. Let's get into it. I started suspending it, but I'm not going to take the entire weight of the front end yet. I'm going to get everything loose up here, and I'm only going to take the weight when I need to pull it out from the bottom. So, because right now the bike is putting weight on the bottom steering bearing, and so it's all right to leave it as it is. I can take all this loose up here and not have to worry about anything. And then once obviously everything's loose up here, I'll jack it up. Pull the ABS sensor off right now so I can pull each fork out. Now I'm going to loosen up those pinch bolts up there and I'll slide each fork out. There's one fork. Got to get the bolt off the bottom for that manifold, that brake manifold. So these are ball bearing, which is interesting because the one I got was not the ball bearing type. It was the, I think, the cylinder roller type. So the bearings might not have been bad per se. I'm thinking there was an issue with my threads because the lower nut had a difficult time coming off and some of the threads are gone. So I don't know if I'll be able to reuse this or not, or if it'll even be able to tighten down. So this is gonna be it's gonna be a whole lot of fun. So I don't know if I'm gonna attempt. I might just try to attempt to put this all back together because there is two nuts. There's two nuts, one that goes down first and then a locking, and then obviously then you have the one up here for the actual upper triple. So it might be fine if I can get it down tight enough to be able to get it to actually tighten the bearings together, get the right preload. But we'll see. So this is gonna look a little weird, but this is a arm off my 3-jaw puller, and unfortunately this one you can't do a 2-jaw. Typically, like on these things, you can actually, there's another stub, so you can do a 2-jaw. So on this one there is not. So instead of going to buy anything, I'm going to use my makeshift sliding hammer. I'm going to clamp down on this arm really good. I shaved it down so it was pretty thin, so I can actually fit it and get the race out. Because there's a ridge on each side to be able to hook underneath. You can't really see it, but it's actually more of a ridge here. Actually, no, it's still a tiny ridge right there to get to the actual race, just like this side. So you can only access 2 areas to really get the race out. So hopefully I'm just gonna yank on this side a few times, this side, and just go back and forth a little bit. So I did end up going to Harbor Freight and buying a $30 sliding hammer because, well, I couldn't reach under here with my ghetto setup. So we'll do the same thing basically from the bottom. I'm about to get the other races. These are actually the exact same bearings. Got 91-3519-1, 99-3519-1. So same exact bearings, so it doesn't matter what we do with which one. We can put one in the top, one in the bottom. Does not really matter. One's gonna go like this up top. One's gonna go like this in the bottom. And then we'll press the new bearing on after we remove that puppy. So I gotta go use a press to press down on here, pop that race off, and then we'll press it back on and everything. Also, I bought this seal driver kit. This is about 50 bucks. It basically comes with every size that you could imagine. It's all steel, so really unlikely that any of these are gonna get damaged. And so I thought it was a good option because I don't have a race driver to be able to install this. None of mine in my kit work. I mean, this is like just slightly too big. These are specially flared to be able to go in races, to be able to center them properly. And just all the kits I saw online basically had the same ones. I couldn't find one without buying something specialty that fit this. So I bought this to find one that was the exact or slightly smaller diameter than this race, so I could get it past the frame if I needed to, so and without damaging that. Also, there is a special install kit, a tool kit that you can use to install these races without having, let's say, a press or anything like that. To be able to, you put it in, like you put like a block in here, and then you basically have a lever you spin, and it basically just presses it in there. Well, that was like 150, 160 bucks. So I decided to get this, all thread, and some nuts, and some big washers, because I knew I was getting these. You can literally put this on here, and then put, obviously, a washer and a nut, and that acts as one side, because I think this one fits perfect in here. So it'll center the all thread from the back side, and then you can get the other one, kind of get it started with like a soft blow hammer or something, and then you can use the other one to basically act as the other side of the press, and basically just use a wrench or something on the nut on this side, and you'll be able to press this one in and just do it reverse on the other side. It's gonna be super easy. Plus I paid less than $10 for the hardware, paid 50 bucks for this, so about 60 bucks to be able to get the same thing that costs 170 bucks. And this can be used for a lot more than just installing races in the neck of a bike. So anyway, let's go ahead and start doing it. All right, so I got 2 nuts on there. They're locking each other so that it doesn't spin. Got a couple washers and then a 54. First, I'm going to start seating this. All right, so I got it flush. And And I'm actually gonna use a 53 on the bottom and the 54 up top because that fits the actual race better. The 55 might actually fit, I don't know, let's see. Looks to be good. Awesome. So now I'm just going to take the steering stem, the triples and stuff like that, to press this out to put the new one on. I'm gonna clean these forks off real quick before I reinstall them. So it looks like I am missing my other seal, so I can't fully assemble this yet, but I can put my steering stem stand underneath this, so it'll put pressure up on this bearing and it'll hold the weight of the bike, and so whenever I get the other seal in, I can go ahead and just reassemble this. I'll go ahead and do that, but this way I can actually put the forks in, put the wheel on, and then I just have to wait on the seal to be able to fully assemble it. It's a perfect time to install the radiator covers because the whole entire front end is open. Looks like I might be able to just replace that washer with this part of this bracket. Okay, so I got that one in there, that one in there, and the one on the bottom. So I kind of just hit it, and it kind of popped in, bent this a little bit. It's aluminum, so it works. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the steering stem back in because I do not have time to wait on the seal, but whenever it comes back in, I'll take it back apart. So I already lubricated this bearing. Throw it in. All right, so I'm just gonna leave that one nut on there for right now until I get the seal in. Put the steering dampener back on. So I put the top nut on and the locker on it just temporarily while I get the forks where they need to be. Alright, so I'm going to slide the fork in. Make sure all the cables go around it that need to go around it. I'm going to tighten it up down here. Clamp it down a little bit. Tighten up there. So I'm going to lubricate the axle. One thing you can't forget is the ABS sensor. This goes around here. I'm going to run blue Loctite on all of these threads. So you gotta hook it around like that. Now we're gonna put the rim on, and so I'm gonna lubricate the axle. Get your rim and your tire, make sure it's going the right way. This is basically like the nut that goes in on the other side. You can tighten the pinch bolts on this side just a little bit. That's going to lock that in there so you can tighten up this side of the axle. Snug it up. Looks smooth. Now I'm going to torque this down to 37 foot-pounds. And now I'm going to torque the pinch bolts to 14 after I snug them up. Now we're going to put the calipers back on. All right, let's see if we can just try to separate this a little bit. All right, so put the brake caliper on. Just a tad bit. Cable. Now I'm going to press the brake lever so it actually clamps onto the rotors, and then I'm going to basically put a zip tie on it to hold pressure on it, and then I'm going to torque these down to about 25 foot-pounds. So I got 2 zip ties holding it down, so now I can torque the brake calipers. I'll alternate. And verify. Swap to the other side. Now I'm going to make sure these are going to be torqued down what they need to be. Bumped it up to 14. So everything is good on the front end except the seal. So I'm going to have to pull the upper triple off whenever it comes in. But I didn't tighten anything, so it's not a big deal. And I got to move that clip on into the hole, like this one's in the hole. So I gotta move that one real quick, but other than that, it's good. So I'm pretty happy. Everything is torqued to spec. I know I don't really typically do that, but I wanna try to make sure that this thing is, you know, spot on, because this is obviously a super bike. It's gonna be going super fast, so I wanna make sure it's, you know, dialed in. That thing I don't really care about. So we got the missing seal. So I'm going to pull the upper triple tree back off and slap this puppy on. Going to put some grease in the seal. Even though I packed the bearing really good with grease, I'm just going to do this for added protection, because I probably won't open this up for another couple years, maybe ever. So I want to make sure it's good. Put the top back on. I don't have a way to torque this down to the proper spec, so just gonna have to be Guten tight. Upper triple tree back on. Got your washer and your nut. Now I'm gonna go look up the torque spec for this nut and these again. So the top nut right here is around 100 Newton meters, which is around 74 foot-pounds. So let's get at it. That's good. And these top bolts are around 14 foot-pounds or 19 Newton meters. I just got finished with the steering stem bearing on the S1000, and I gotta say, it is smooth. It is going to be very stable at high speeds. There's no play in it whatsoever, so I'm super happy. It was interesting because maybe from the factory it came with ball bearings in it, but this all balls racing kit actually swapped it to a tapered roller bearing. So a little bit different, but that's what I mostly see in all these other bikes is the tapered rollers. Anyway, we'll see how that works. I'm super excited to be able to test this thing, see how stable it is, how it handles, because that can contribute to, poor handling. Obviously, if you have a slop in the front end, it's no bueno. So this should be a really solid bike when I'm done with it. And I'm super excited to ride the curves with it. Anyway, catch y'all flip side.